Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, June 24th. We're going to enter right into executive session and return at approximately 7 o'clock to continue our regular meeting. Can I have a motion? Okay.
Yeah, I move that the Board of Selectmen enter into executive session at about 6:35 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Board of Selectmen will be discussing the Finance Director's contract and executive session minutes approval. And we will exit executive session to come back into regular session at approximately 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome back to the Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, June 24th. I'll read the agenda. 7:05, we'll have the Board of Selectmen update. 7:10, Board of Selectmen discussion on open meeting law. 7:20, citizens input, topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. 7:25, Board of Selectmen vote on the Finance Director's contract. 7:30, Frank Spillane will be here with Paul McKenna regarding signage for Waxy O'Connor's. 7:45, Bill Keegan will present a planned organizational change, the human resources position to assistant town manager. 8:05, we'll have a board discussion on the town committee handbook and request form, and 8:25, Bill Keegan will provide a town manager update. John, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start with the Board of Selectmen update. Jim, did you want to start with a report on the dedication of the turf field?
Yeah. Lorraine had asked me to say a couple words on the community field dedication to Sam Burns. I mean, really nothing I can add about Sam or Scott or Leslie. It's been all said over the last weeks and months. But I was given the opportunity to speak at the dedication, and I took the opportunity to thank some people. At the end of the day, this is a community field, and I think what Sam's parents, Scott and Leslie, got was a community that kind of worked very hard on something since 2008. And to me, I think the benefit of that is it's a good example of a private-public partnership, putting something together. And I think what you see coming out of that through hard work and volunteerism and donations is a field that's going to last. And the people that did come, I thank them for coming. It was a good showing, and really they kind of experienced a little bit of history, because that field is going to grow. There's a lot of energy there. People are going to take care of it, and over time you're going to see the Sam Burns community field really live on. So it was a good example of the community, whether you supported the field or not years ago. People showed up of all ages and kind of embraced Sam's family, and it was just very nice to see, and it was a very, it makes you proud to live in a small town that you can do that and appreciate, the hard work of Sam's parents, what they've done over the last couple of years on the education and the school committee, the CIP, the Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, all working at different parts of this project to put it together over the years. So I was very happy with it, and for a friend or a student or a classmate to be honored that way, I think a lot of people are proud of that. So it was a nice gathering. I'm always a little long-winded on that, but very proud of the town for that.
That was well done.
It was very nice. Thank you, Jim.
Very well done.
Okay. Dave or Bill, would you like to give an update on the town hall
For Dave,
project?
So we had our most recent meeting on the 17th of June. We worked with the site subcommittee to identify the potential sites, and we ruled out some other sites, and we narrowed it down to 3. I think before we make those goes public either through the newspaper or the website, I'd like to just sit with two of the members that weren't present at the last meeting. But it was a pretty unique way that they narrowed down those sites with a weighted scale. And I think it's important that we publish that weighted scale so the community at large understands the process in identifying the sites and the reasons why the sites selected are in the top 3 and the reason why other sites didn't make the cut, so to speak. I think over the next probably week to 10 days, we'll be putting some advertising materials into the newspaper and really get more detailed information out to the public. Maybe you can do it on your show, or I think the website, getting a link to the website will be key, and I'd like to get that going sooner rather than later.
If I could just add a few comments, the committee is really working well together. I mean, and it's interesting because everybody is sharing their thoughts and doing so in a way that, you know, that we may not always agree with each other's thoughts on it, but, you know, but it's very diplomatic. It's very, you know, it's a congenial type of operation where we're respecting each other's thoughts. It's the process that the site committee used was a very objective process. I mean, they didn't consider the politics of this because that's something to be determined by others. This is more of a objective. Let's look at the facts. Let's evaluate the facts, weight the facts, and then to come up with some results. We didn't want to pick any one site at this point because we want to get more public input from that point before we reach that issue. But I think what's good about this is that we're providing clean, clear process for everyone to see, so we can actually come back and say, this is how we reached this conclusion. We didn't just, you know, throw dots on the board and say this is a good location. There was a lot of thought that was put into that.
Yeah, and there's been a lot in give and take throughout those discussions, which is good to see. There's no personal agendas that are coming into play here. So it's really a group effort. And like I said, I think it's important that we get that information out to the public sooner versus later.
So we're going to work on that. Our next meeting is for next Tuesday, scheduled for next Tuesday at the library. And I think the next phase would be to introduce a public hearing of some sort to go evaluate what we come up with so far. The more we can put information out to the public before we reach any final conclusions, the better it is, and it'll help to come to a supportive position that people can reach.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we have accomplished is we have a timeline, and we actually set a date, and we worked it in reverse. So this does not just continue in perpetuity. There's actually an end date in sight, and we're really working hard to try and meet that date.
And I will say that, you know, more information comes available every day, and I'll be able to introduce additional information even as early as next week about, you know, what's going on in the process here. So we're obviously sometimes in the summertime it gets a little bit bogged down because of vacations, but we're continuing on. We're not stopping. We're going to continue on regardless of individual schedules. So.
And the important thing is we have everybody pointing in the same direction.
That's right.
which
was not easy to do.
With 15 members, it's that's a chore in itself.
Yeah, it was not easy to do, but it's working pretty well.
So once you have the link set up, you'll be able to upload your waiting tool and all that for everybody. That'd be great.
Yeah, how we get that information into a format that's, well, I think what we need to do is just agree on what we should put on the website each time. That way there's no surprises when people start reading it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I just wanted to give a quick update. Bill and Dan Murphy and I had a meeting last week. I wanted to reach out and, open up a line of communication. We had a good discussion. Dan talked about, the fact that the craft organization is continuing to look for a large development options,
Yeah.
right? You know, along the lines of Google or things like that, would be the ideal tenant to have developing on the other side of Route 1. So that's really where they're focusing a lot of their attention. He talked about just some of the future things that are coming our way. In a couple weeks, we'll be having an applicant come before us looking for one of our remaining beer and wine licenses to open up a new Muse Paint Bar up at Patriot Place. And that sounds like it'll be a really good venue to bring up there, hopefully attract more people to their retail. They're continuing to work on their hotel project, and you know, we just talked a lot in general about, you know, the importance of having communication open, and talked about the idea, I thought maybe it would be helpful if each one of us took a turn meeting with them each month with Bill, and so that, you know, everyone can be able to have that direct contact with the craft, you know, with Dan for the crafts. And so, you know, I want to ask John if you wanted to, you know, if we just rotated, if you wanted to go next month.
I'll take August. I'm not around next month.
Okay,
That's fine.
so Ginny, if you want to do July, and then Jim and David, we
Jim,
can all
yeah.
follow a rotation like
That's a
that.
good idea.
Does that sound like
Yeah,
an
whatever,
okay
you
idea?
know, whatever you want to do is fine. I mean, we can schedule something every month
Yeah,
to do it, or once every 2 weeks.
yeah. Any preference of the board, once a month, every other week?
Once a month is fine.
Okay, we'll start off. If, you know, if there are projects that start to really get
Right,
moving, maybe we
then
can increase the
obviously more
frequency.
information will be needed, but for that. But the key is to at least, you know, to have everybody know who we're talking to. So that, and it's also good to sort of introduce issues so that they don't. So there's no surprise when the board, you know, gets this information. So, and I think they welcome that opportunity too. It was a good conversation that we had, I thought.
Can you check with Dan to set up a tentative date, and if that's
Sure, I can do that.
okay.
Great. Okay, we're running a little ahead of schedule here, but citizens' input. If there's anyone in the audience who'd like to say a few words? No? Okay.
Do you want me to talk about the Purple Hat?
Yeah, that would be good.
Last August, Chairman Mark Sullivan asked me if I could work on a project in regard to the Purple Hat Day. What this was an opportunity for the town of Foxborough to join some all the communities in Massachusetts in declaring, doing a proclamation to declare the town a Purple Hat town. This is in recognition of the recipients and the history of the Purple Hat. And August 7th is National Purple Hat Day, and so we did the proclamation, we submitted the proclamation. It is going to be approved by the National Office of the Purple Hat, and once that's done, the town of Foxborough will receive a citation at a BOS Selectmen's meeting in recognition of our being a Purple Hat town and in recognition of declaring August 7th Purple Hat Day. It just so happens we have a Selectmen's meeting on August 5th, and that is when we've invited Commander Agnew to come down, and he will present the citation to the town. He'll also present citations to the recipients of the Purple Hat, which we do have some in the town of Foxborough. And he'll discuss the Purple Hat and give the history of it. What we're doing is we're going to be working with Jack Othlet and the Foxborough Reporter to give more information in regard to the history of the Purple Hat in the month of August. So you'll be reading more about this in the Foxborough Reporter in upcoming issues.
Thanks very much, Ginny. That was a really good project to follow up on.
It's a really, the history of the Purple Hat is really interesting, and I think people will, it's not well known, and I think people are going to be really interested in it. So, thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to do some action items while we're waiting for the clock to tick by?
Okay. Okay. I move to accept a donation to the Foxborough Historical Commission in the amount of $25 for the repair of the Civil War statue. And this is from George W. Lilliman of Tulare, California. And I want to publicly thank Mr. Lilliman for his donation.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't realize. 7:10 is when we were scheduled for the open meeting law discussions.
Oh, okay.
You want to just finish the vote since it was seconded?
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be good.
One less we have
All
to
those in
delay that.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Jim asked for this to be put on the agenda to discuss process related to open meeting law discussion. So you want to start off, Jim?
Yeah, I asked, thank you, Lorraine, I asked for this to go on the agenda, and I guess to coin the term that Manager Bill just said, a good, clean, clear process. You're talking about Town Hall, but, you know, this was a little bit before your time, and certainly before David's time, but since November, this board has gone through, you know, if you want to call them complaints or accusations or what have you, but there's been 5 items, complaints that have gone to the Attorney General. And I wanted to talk about 3 things and ask the board to consider 3 things related to that. So over the past 6 months since November, we've had a lot of different debate on when a complaint comes in, how it's handled. And there's been no shortage of, you know, armchair quarterbacking and professionals saying that they know it is a complaint or a violation, or it is not a violation. I'm not here to go back and revisit it, but the fact is there's 5 complaints. 2 of them have been rendered violations and 3 are outstanding. So the 3 things that I'm looking for is, the first one, if we can define a process. So if you look at the Attorney General's laws or regulations, when someone finds that there is something worthy of a complaint, they bring it to this board, and we have so many days, I think it's 14 days, to either rectify it or recognize it or respond to it. And if
Just who recognizes that it's worthy of coming to the board?
it comes to, regardless, you know, they could say pink elephants fly. If it's a complaint, it comes to
If
the
it
board.
shows up at town hall, it comes to the
Yeah.
board? Okay.
So my point is, we have a process where we can answer it, dispute it, agree with it, and then respond back to the complainant. There's 5 different complaints that came in, and to be honest with you, they all went in different directions. Some went to the town manager, some went to the attorney, some went to the attorney back to the town manager. Everyone had a shot on it. We had board members that were going to the newspaper giving their answers to it, and we've had, you know, meeting after meeting of asking for it to be discussed. Some people didn't want to discuss it, other people did want to discuss it. So the process can be what we want it to be. So the questions I think we have to ask ourselves is, we have a town manager. What role does the town manager play in this? Because obviously your role, there's a little bit of a conflict because we're your bosses.
Mhm.
So, you know, you win one battle, you lose the other. So that's something that we have to consider. Second alternative is, we've got town council. Now, do we choose a town council or direct a town council to, you know, defend as an attorney does? Or does he counsel us and say it like it is? If we violate it, he tells us we violate it and we rectify it or whatever, then it goes back to the complainant. Or do we handle it amongst ourselves as 5 individuals, and that process can go wherever we want? So I think over the next, and there will be other violations. It might be tomorrow, it might be 3 years from now, but I think we owe it to ourselves, certainly to the new members coming in, and I know Chairman Sullivan got caught in the middle of it, and I think it did some damage to him because it got out of control. And I think we need to have a process, so when any person comes in, we're up front, we tell them exactly what to expect, there's a timeline, and we remove ourselves from any variations of that. So I don't know if the board wants to discuss it at the next meeting, or maybe you take a draft from your experience. I certainly, I mean, this is a little close to home with me because it's part of my profession. I'm in front of other towns, I see that, how they do
Sure.
it. I have ideas, but I think it's something worth discussing before the next one comes in, or the remaining 3 get determined by the Attorney General. The second thing, I know we got a letter on June 5th. It has not come back to the board for discussion, but I understand that there is a desire, or there has been movement to go back to the Attorney General with either more information or to dispute it. All I ask that if any of the board members want to do that, or if the town manager wants to do it, or any other people named in one of the complaints, if we're going to spend any more money on attorneys or time on this, it comes back to the board, so the board discusses it before. What I'm afraid of is you're going to get caught in the middle of something that you came into. You're going to the town council, spending town money at the direction of something, and it's going to blow up in your face, and it's going to come back to the board as either another violation, or throwing good money after bad, or maybe good money to get good money. I don't know. But that's the second thing I want to do. If anyone had a desire to challenge the Attorney General's decision, which this board decided that the Attorney General had the final say, and then if we don't like it, just at least bring it back to the board so we can discuss it. And the third item, if you look at the letter on June 5th, it says the board argued that that second violation, which they determined a violation, was a result of the board arguing that it was an administrative step, that it wasn't, the board saying it was an administrative, not a open meeting violation. Having said that, with the understanding that I continued to bring this up meeting after meeting after meeting, the board, if the board is the factor that determined that it was administrative, then the board who decided that can go and do the training. But I'll say for the record, I'm not spending any more time, personal time or selectman time, to do any more training, because I'm the one that brought it back continuously saying it was a violation. So, I'm all for group hugs and working together, but in this one I'm drawing the line. Whoever violated needs to take some responsibility and either fix it or make the determination themselves, because it's going to be a 4-0 vote and really a 3-0, because David wasn't here when all that happened. So we can discuss it tonight, but if not, I'd like to put it on one of the agendas to come up with some good, clean, clear process so we don't have to do this again.
Bill, can you speak to your experience on process?
Well, I think good process is important for everything that we do, so that everybody understands what's the expectation is when something happens. In this case, the law changed actually just within the past 2 years, I want to say 3 years. So I think there was still, the jury is still out on how to actually properly handle every aspect of this. The first action I would take, though, excuse me, is to ask the AG's office if they have a recommended process for use by cities and towns.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's the case, then that's the thing that we should probably be guided by, so that there's no concern about that when we actually put it in place. I think that as far as developing a process that's consistent, I'm all for that. I mean, I think that I think Jim's points on how we handle a document coming into the office is on point. I don't think there's any question in my mind about that. As far as who that person should be, I'm hired to do a job. I mean, so I try to be as objective as I can, and I think if you all know by now that my job is to stay out of the political fray and just deal with the issues in front of me, and I see it that way. I try to deal with it that way. So, as far as a matter of interpreting law, that's not my role. That's town council's role, and so I think if this comes down to a matter of interpretation of law, town council is probably the best person to deal with in that one.
Bill, if a complaint came into your office, and I don't know, I guess it could go to the Attorney General first, it could come to Town Hall first, it could go anywhere first.
Correct.
But
Correct.
Is it normal that the town manager would be the clearinghouse for that kind of communication?
Again, I'm going to have to defer to what the AG's office says in terms of handling. I'll be honest with you, didn't have a lot of these types of complaints in my previous experiences, so I haven't dealt with this type of processing before.
We've had a lot of them, and they've always typically been handled by the town manager back when Andy was here.
I see.
And
All right.
then Kevin, and Bob handled them also in the past year.
Right.
But I agree with you, Jim, that if there was a process by which the the public knew if there was a complaint,
Mhm.
where it should go originally, and then how it's gonna be handled after, and how it arrives here. Because I agree, it went everywhere.
Well, it went everywhere,
Yeah.
and what concerns me is the people that make the complaint were made to feel that they did something wrong. It was in the newspaper, and it was kind of like, how dare you, we didn't do anything wrong. So good luck for someone else trying to do that again, because that's just not the right thing to do.
Mhm.
So, my concern is, we have a town council,
Mhm.
and if the town council is directed to defend, and send out we're innocent, because that's what attorneys do, fine, if that's what we decide, or are they going to counsel when we do something wrong? I agree, it should go to, if the complaint is a violation, it is a legal thing.
Mhm.
But how do we direct our counsel to either advise us or to protect us? And I think that's a bigger discussion for today, but that's what concerns me.
Well, there are two ways to handle that. One is that the policy would say that the town manager, once in receipt of a complaint, would then forward it directly to town council for action and advise the board. Or the town manager could accept the complaint and present it to the board at the next meeting. Because that's the two only clear processes that I know of. The third option I thought about was that, where the town clerk is the keeper of the record, somebody could actually file a complaint with the clerk and have the clerk file it. There's another option.
Well, I think that the way that the law, the onus is on the person making complaint to file it directly with the board, whether,
The board,
whatever,
okay.
so it's a conservation or
Fair enough.
selectmen or planning or school committee. So if they submit it to the clerk, they made a mistake, I think. They have to give it right to the board, which would
Okay.
be either you or Sandra.
Right. So, I think I'll have to come back. I think it would be wise of the board to, this is clearly a policy matter, which I think is right in your domain, and you're wise to address it. What I can do is provide you I'll do some research on it, provide you some information from the AG's office if they have a suggested policy and how it's properly handled, or I'll even reach out to some of my colleagues in other communities to see how they do it as well.
Okay. And to my third point, we've got 30 days to respond to the finding of the Attorney General. So if we're not meeting again, 30 days from, I don't know when it was received, but the date is the 4th, 5th? How is the board going to respond? June 5th.
Well,
So
just
technically-
to advise the board on that, I've actually had responses from 3 of the board members relative to the fact that they've done the training.
Okay.
All right, so, and I know you were away, so I know that you probably still need to do it as well, and Jim, you already stated your position on that, so.
Is this the training for the,
The open meeting law training, online training,
right, the one about the complaint about
the most recent, the one that was just.
the
decision.
four individuals?
Right, it
Not
was
the-
the one that was regarding the fact that I had reported that we had been given incorrect information regarding the fact that appointing 2 people to do something for the board actually does
Allegedly,
represent.
Lorraine, that's your
Allegedly.
opinion.
Oh, no, that was Dick's opinion.
No, it was not Dick's.
It
See,
was.
I don't want to get into this, but
But
we had a vote, the vote was changed, and that started a chain reaction
I
that
see.
where everyone got caught up in, except for John and Ginny. So when you say. we
John
made
was
it-
named in it also.
Oh, because he received the phone call, you're right.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's my question. Is it the whole board or just the people involved or what?
The way I understood it was, I'll go back and look at it, and I'll advise you accordingly, but I thought it was directed towards the board,
Yeah,
was my
The whole
understanding.
board.
So that's, you and I are in it because we.
My recollection, I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yeah, I didn't see Ginny's name in there, but I'm not sure if it was, very generally, they said the board will.
But I do have a document that the board members who have completed the training can sign tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you do complete it on your own time, you can actually sign it on your own. There's no official board action required to do that, just.
But if the letter
it's not
says the
individual.
board has to certify, how does the board certify it? That would be the chairman, right? Or the board signs something that
The
says.
board,
I was-
they all sign it, they individually
Everybody
sign it.
signs.
But I don't know if there's an official vote that's taken to certify, they all sign it.
Well,
So
I
the-
would assume it would be the majority of the board speaking for the board, right? So we would vote on it. I guess.
Isn't it just a form? It was an
It's a-
attachment?
Yeah, it was a form that
Yeah, I
that
think
came in
all
from
the
the
attorney
AG's
general wanted
office.
to do was to take the training. and
It's actually,
it
it's
takes
in
about
the
10 minutes.
packet tonight.
Certification of compliance with order.
Right.
Mm.
And it's for each individual to.
So should everybody get one of these and then they can return it to your office?
Right.
Okay.
And or you can sign it tonight if you've completed it. I've already received communication from 3 board members that they've already completed it, so.
So for our next meeting then, Bill, could you bring us a draft of a process?
I will do that.
And we can discuss it on the next agenda.
Sure.
Thanks. Okay.
I'll provide you whatever information I can find.
Any other comments?
Can I just make an observation? We're all public servants, we're elected officials, we're going to make mistakes. I think if we do make a mistake, it's incumbent on us to own up to it and, you know, apologize for it and move on. You know, these things, like Jim said, there's no guarantee that this isn't going to happen again. I don't think there's malicious intent. You know, when you take the open meeting law training, it's very ambiguous.
Mm.
There's a lot of things that they say you can do in one section, in another section you can do it, or there's a gray area. So it's going to happen.
Mhm.
And, you know, as long as there's no malicious intent, you own up to it and you move on. I mean, there's no harm in saying, I made a mistake. I mean, it happens in business every day, you know? So I just want to point that out.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
you.
So it being 7:25 approximately, our next item is to vote on the finance director contract. So in executive session, we reviewed Randy Scollins' contract with him, and we have come to an agreement to extend Randy's contract. Junie, can you present a motion for that?
Yeah, I move that the Foxborough Board of Selectmen approve the contract for William R. Scollins III as financial director, town accountant, effective July 6, 2014 to July 5th, 2017.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, the next item
We need
is,
to just pass those around for signatures. I need signatures from the board on that.
It's in here.
Is it in there?
Can we do it at the end?
Okay, great, thank you.
all right, so the next item is Frank Spillane and Paul McKenna regarding signage for Waxy O'Connor's.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
So this is to discuss further the placement of a sign at the corner of Mechanic and Chestnut Street for direction to Waxy's.
Yeah, we were in front of this board approximately a month ago requesting a trailblazing sign at the intersection of Mechanic and Chestnut. Again, Waxy O'Connor's through Paul has requested from the Mass DOT to be put on the sign out on Route 95 indicating that Waxy O'Connor's is within the 3-mile radius allowed off of a interchange on Route 95. In order for it to be put on that sign on 95, since Waxy O'Connor's is not directly on Mechanic Street, but off of Chestnut Street, which is off Mechanic Street, you have to have a trailblazing sign or a point of turn sign. And that would be on the Mechanic Chestnut Street intersection. Last time we were here, there were a number of questions, and we hope we have all those answers and have given that to you to some extent. Again, the sign will be approximately 42 inches by 30 inches. We've talked with Mass DOT about reducing that. They have a couple of concerns with regard to readability for motorists going by, some federal standards, but they also said that the size is not set in stone. So we'll try to get that reduced as great as possible But right now, they're still telling us it's 42 inches by 30 inches. The sign itself, I think you got something in the packet, will indicate food on the very top. In the middle, it'll say Waxy O'Connor's or whatever logo they want to put on. And the bottom, it'll be an arrow pointing to the right, meaning take a right turn onto Chestnut, and Waxy O'Connor's is right down there. Again, the sign will be put on a signpost from all the indications that we have separate at that intersection. Again, at that intersection, in one corner you have a church, another corner you have a cemetery, a third you have residence that's off of Mechanic Street that has very high shrubs, anywhere from 8 to 10 feet high. So there's no visibility. On the fourth corner, you have a residence that's off of Chestnut Street, and that's the residence of Mark and Virginia Stopa. I've talked with Mark. Mark is not in favor of having the sign added there. I think he's spoken to a few, if not all, of the selectmen about that. We're requesting it in order for Waxy O'Connor's to help some of the clientele get to the location, as well as any travelers on 95. Again, under the state hospital property reuse plan, it was always intended that there would be residents there, office, retail, as well as restaurants. So this is another way of helping that business locate there, which was always intended to have restaurants there. The location of the state hospital property, as redeveloped, is surrounded by residential. So at all times, in order to get to that location, you have to travel through residential to some effect, whether you go into the office or the retail or to the restaurants. As this board has heard in the past, Foxborough is now a destination location. People are coming here to go to Patriot Place on Route 1, the stadium, other locations, the hockey rinks, all that within here. This is another destination for people to go to, and this is will just help them locate Waxy O'Connor's. And we don't anticipate this really adding all that much traffic to it. We hope it does add a little bit, but just another way of helping all of them locate Waxy O'Connor's. Again, those are both major streets at this time. During stadium events, a large number of cars go down those streets to get to the stadium, and other travelers to get out there. So I was trying to be short. Are there any questions for either Paul or myself?
Jim, do you have any questions?
No questions.
John?
Yeah, Frank, this was in the paper, maybe it was a month ago, maybe it was longer. And I expected there to be sort of a neighborhood outcry of the overuse of signage in what I consider a residential area. And Mark Stoper, I think, is the only one that expressed a negative opinion. He had to be solicited to get that. Have any board members, or have you heard of any other neighbors in that area that have expressed concern about this?
I myself haven't been contacted by anyone.
Have you heard anything
against it?
Another board member who's a resident expressed concern.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. You guys? No? Yeah.
And I think my opinion on signs. I think Foxborough has too many of them to begin with. And, I see the accumulation of signs as nothing but blight. A downtown has too many signs. But, I think in this case, in the absence of a neighborhood protest, it should serve its purpose.
I think it's important that we try and support our local businesses as much as possible, and I think there's going to be some unintended beneficiaries of this as well. People coming down, maybe going to Waxy's, maybe you're not that hungry. Dairy Queen's right there, Dunkin' Donuts, pizza time, so I think there can be some unintended beneficiaries of this as well.
Ginny?
Yeah, I know the planning board had some concerns in regard to fire lane signs and the parking in the fire lane, and from what I understand, those have been addressed.
Yes, I talked with Bill Greeter. Two signs have been put up on the back saying no parker no parking fire lane.
Mhm.
And Bill has actually asked us to relocate one of the signs, so it's a little bit more spread out throughout the back of the building there, and we're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And Bill's indication to me that he's fine with that.
Yeah, I drove through there, and I noticed that the white paint demarking the fire lane is pretty bad. Is that, whose responsibility is that?
The landlord,
The landlord?
yes.
Yeah, is that, oh, well,
That'll be
that's, I
something-
suppose that would be a planning board issue or
Correct.
something.
And I told Bill that Waxes will bring it up with the landlord,
Yeah,
but we can't make any promises with regard to this particular landlord
Yeah.
or when they'll get to it.
because you can hardly see that it says filing. Yeah.
Madam Chair, through the board, I can also raise that issue with our building inspector, building commissioner, who can also talk to the owner of the property, because that's typically where the enforcement actually come from,
Mhm.
of that type of situation.
Frank, what about the, I mean, it's a little larger sign than I anticipated, but at that same corner across from Stopa, that's a, I'm going to call it a memorial corner for a fallen soldier. What's going to happen to that sign, and is that going to be moved or obstructed?
Not to my knowledge, no. That's up higher than the other signs. You're talking about the sign that's by the residence with the high.
Correct, right at the
bushes.
corner.
Yeah,
You'd be looking at
that's behind the
that.
sidewalk, and it's higher.
It's higher than this is proposed? Because I think,
Yes.
really,
It's higher up than the signs that are there currently. So I don't,
because I think it's
I
just-
can't tell
yeah,
you that honestly if it will be obstructed
yeah.
or from what angle, but I wouldn't anticipate it being that high. It's also, it's a smaller marking.
I think
to-
that's my concern. You lose focus, or you lose, it's a fallen soldier,
Yeah.
and I know the town puts a lot of stock in
Yeah.
decorating it and keeping it, where it is.
We can ask the Mass Department of Transportation to take that in consideration in its location. I anticipate it being more around where the post is for the
Mhm.
lights. So I wouldn't anticipate it blocking it, but I can't tell you for sure because they'll locate it out there. But we can work with the contractor.
Yeah, I went
What
to that
happens is
last
the-
night. That sign that you're talking about, I think sits about 10 feet tall.
Yes, it's very
And
high.
it's almost, well, it's not quite at the top of the hedges, but it is rather tall. And this sign here, I'm assuming is going to be 4 feet off the ground?
I anticipate 4 to 5 feet, yes. So it's at a good eye level from somebody parked, sitting in a car, at the light or approaching it. So that's what I anticipate, about the same level and same area where, no turn, no right turn on red.
But I think collectively, if I can speak collectively, to minimize the size of the sign would be a request.
We will work, in the email received, they said the size of the sign is not set in stone, and then went on and told us why it had to be the size. So, mixed remarks are coming from them.
Understated is better.
Mm.
We will work to make it as small as possible. That's allowed by the DOT. And we will work with the contractor to make sure it does not in any way obstruct
The memorial.
the sign for the corner. Yeah.
So if I look at this from a broader town perspective, we're looking at one sign, but we've got, to the north, we've got Route 1, which is a state highway. You've got 95 down on the south side as a state highway, and you've got 95 on the northeast as a state highway. What this sign does is it takes the limit of Mass Highway. So if you drive from 95 off-ramp to here, it's at the very furthest limit of what they allow, right? So you'd be coming off of 95 and traveling almost 3 miles to get to it. So if every business had that, once this is set, which is the first one in the town, all the businesses within 3 miles, we're basically opening up the door to put these signs throughout town.
Well,
That would be my concern.
Well, again, if the location is on the main street, in other words, on Mechanic Street, it could go up on 95 without town approval, because it just needs an indicator at the end of the ramp. The only reason we're in front of you is because
It's a
we're
second
off-
turn.
Right. So it'd have to be a location secondary. The other, like the next ramp down, that sign is full. So no additional restaurants can go on there, or eating establishments can go on there. And
So you're talking about the 95 and 140 interchange? That sign
Yes.
is full?
yes, that sign is full, in both directions again. And I know the 495, one of those intersections was full. I can't speak of the other one off the top of my head. So it would just be the exit 8, and whether it's within the 3 miles, and if it's off on a secondary road.
Okay.
And again, within that 3-mile limit.
Mhm. And I have not heard from Mark Stopa, but he was aware that there was a meeting tonight, and
A meeting where?
Mark Stopa. I'm assuming if I lived at that intersection and I was opposed to something, I would come to the meeting to present my case. He knew about this meeting tonight?
Yes, but I want to make it clear that he was not in favor of it. I don't want to say anything other than that. He made that clear to me.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say that, in thinking about it, I did talk with Mark, and I understand, that he didn't support it. Looking at the location and looking at the idea that this is going to bring potentially more business to Waxy's, I think, it's going to bring, like David said, business to other places also, assuming the line to get into Waxy's is really long, And so, I think it would be the right thing to do in terms of a business perspective for the businesses in the town.
Can
Sure, Jean.
And just to let the board and the public know, there's a cost involved, a hefty cost to advertise on the ramps. So this isn't. I don't think you have to be worried about a flood of signs going up, because it's very expensive to do this.
And
So
the cost of the sign and installation is all borne by
the advertiser,
Yeah.
right? So it's not frivolous,
And there's an annual fee.
right?
Thanks, Jeannie. Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the trailblazing signage at the corner of Mechanic Street and Chestnut Street for the benefit of Waxy O'Connors.
Can I have a second on this?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item, Bill Keegan is going to present us with an organizational change, a plan that he's put together, and it involves a transition from our current Human Resources Department to a new position called Assistant Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. With the departure of the Human Resources Director planned for the end of June, I'd like to offer the board my plan for changing the organization during the next few months. I'd like to notify the board that I've received the resignation letter from Cindy DePina, who is the town's Human Resource Director, that will take effect on June 30th, 2014. In light of that action, I would like to apply the financial resources of that position toward the establishment of a new Assistant Town Manager position. I have attached the job description, draft job description for the board's review and consideration, and certainly I'm open to any thoughts or ideas the board may have on that point. This new position would include responsibility associated with human resource management, but also be responsible for our other general management responsibilities, including long-range planning, insurance, budgeting, policy development, and constituent services. The position would become the acting town manager in the absence of the town manager, and it would assist the town manager in providing guidance and direction to the town's management team. As a former human resource professional, the need for a dedicated HR director is, from my perspective, not as important as establishing a clear second-in-command role in the organization. I would not recommend any change to the present pay classification, as I feel the compensation is competitive enough to attract a highly qualified candidate. Therefore, the action I would request of the board tonight is that the if the board is in concurrence, if there's any questions, I'm certainly here to answer them, but if the board is in concurrence, I would ask that you vote to support this change for the organization. So I'm open to any questions the board may have at this time.
Question, Bill. Actually, on page 5, on the educational and experience, this is
Yes.
kind of a minor question,
Sure.
but it looks like 3 different types of experience separated by or. Degree in public administration, government, political science, or related fields with 5 years of progressive, responsible experience in municipal government, human resources, or an associate's degree with 10 years progressively responsible. So is that second one, an associate's degree
Plus.
takes place?
Plus the 10 years experience. If you have an associate's degree plus the 10 years experience, you can do that.
But that, after the or, that replaces, those skills replace the first 3 sentences?
Yes. So it's 5 years with the direct experience in government administration and a bachelor's degree,
Yeah.
or an associate's degree with 10 years
Okay.
experience.
And then the last one, or an equivalent combination of education and experience. Does that stand on its own?
It's yes, because what happens in many situations, that person may not have the exact degree,
Mhm.
but they have good experience. So in other words, if they have good experience dealing with human resource management or general government management, that would be a consideration.
Okay, so if someone comes in with experience, okay, it could be a high school degree and working 50 years, that is enough to be considered?
I wouldn't consider it to be an equivalent combination of education experience.
So
So in other words, if a
the
person...
the word equivalent, is that subjective to your determination? or
Yes,
the
well,
board's?
it is in a sense, because it's actually pretty standard language. The reason it's put in that way is it leaves you the maximum amount of flexibility to consider all possibilities that weren't considered in the initial thinking of the position. The reason I say that is because if you have, obviously, you wouldn't want to take somebody that had no experience and no education qualifications in order to provide experience at this level of the organization. So you want somebody who's got a good level of experience. In fact, I would want, preferably, to have candidates with even more experience than what I've listed here.
Okay.
But I think it's just, that's pretty standard language, and I've written a lot of these descriptions over the years, so, and it just provides you the maximum level of flexibility.
So, coming into a town where we had a new town manager that hired an HR person, hired a DPW director, so there's a process that the
Yes.
town has. Do you understand how that process worked and how you would be doing something the same or different? My concern is, we had an HR person that, and again, I'm trying to separate myself from her skills and her personal
Sure.
stuff versus the process. I was surprised, when you consider salary and experience and travel and degrees and going after, future degrees, that person came in here,
Mhm.
all right? And again, I haven't worked with her, so it's not a negative for her. But
Right.
we had a town manager that, through whatever process, said, this is who I'm picking. And I think there was a process. I wasn't on that committee.
Yes, there was.
But I would love to shake that out and understand it better before we say, yes, go ahead and do this, because I don't want to make mistakes based on whatever committee reviewed that person's resume and came to that decision.
Well, one of the things that I will bring to this process is that one thing I can stand on my own merits on is the fact that over the years I really prided myself in hiring very highly qualified candidates for positions, especially at this level. And the process I use is actually worked very, very well in the communities that I've worked in. And whereas I will actually have town managers from other communities participate in the process, along with a local member of the staff to participate as well. So I have the local input, but yet I have the level of experience from other communities to help evaluate those candidates. And by doing that, I get a well-rounded response to that process. I participate in the process, but I actually like to see the others so to do the majority of the question and answers, so that I can actually take in the information and really digest it from the candidates, so I know who I'm dealing with.
And how would you rely on the board? Would you or would you not rely on this board's input? I'm not saying one's better than the other, but how do you see us coming in after the fact or during the process, or not at all?
I've never, obviously, it's the first time for me in terms of how this is normally done. Normally, what I would do is present a finalist to the board for approval. Provided them all the background information, the process that we used to achieve that, and also in the background information on the candidate. I've not gone through a process here, so I've never seen it done otherwise. So I certainly I'm open to hearing what the board's reaction is to that.
Yeah, it's the process, because you are working as a strong town manager, so you have a lot of flexibility that you could do this all on your own, or with help from us or committees. And I'm just curious, before it gets too far, which direction you're going to go in.
Right. I think that's the process I've been used to using, in that where I present the finalist name to the candidate, to the board, and then the board either accepts or rejects. But I've had a pretty good record of not getting anybody ever rejected.
John?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Larry, you can help us with this one. Back when the HR director position was created, I remember Kevin Pecos coming to the advisory committee and basically laying out the reasons why he would need that position. And I think the only reason he would come to the advisory committee is if this was a warrant article to create the new position. And I'm wondering, do we need to go down the same process to create this position? Is this just a transformation of the HR director into an assistant town manager, or is this creating a new position and eliminating another?
Right. As I read the charter, I think the charter speaks to the process here, and the process says that if I want to make an organizational change, I'd have to present it to the board, and the board would have to approve it.
So it's not a town meeting
Right.
issue.
Because the finances are already there for the position. I'm not asking for additional funding.
Yeah, I'm just asking, procedurally, what's the right way to go?
That's my understanding of the process. I read the charter, unless someone has a different reading of that.
Larry, come on up.
Larry, was I right in that recollection?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. What I'm wondering is, at town meeting, we appropriated salary amount of whatever it was for an HR director, but now you're gonna try to transfer that to a different position. And that, I think you've gotta go back and get that reappropriated. I could be wrong, but that would be my guess.
Well, I'm asking to see collectively, do we know the answer to that? Because I know that's the road we went down when
Right.
we first created the HR.
Yeah, this is a
director.
brand-new position.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's the
Right.
difference here, is the
Right.
fact that it's a new position, whereas I'm actually making an organizational change, whereas, and the funding is already available. So I'm not asking for an additional appropriation, I'm asking for an existing appropriation to be used
Yeah, I
for
just
this
don't know
position.
how, you have to look at the budget to see how specific
Mhm.
the appropriation was for that.
I actually.
You know, if there's a
yeah,
line
that's fine.
item in there that says HR director in the budget, and 130,000, whatever that person was making, I would think you'd have to go back to town meeting, because people voted on, that position, and now we're changing that. So, not so much vote to to go along with your reorganization, but to vote to appropriate the money to fund that.
Right.
But I could definitely.
Yeah,
be
I just
wrong.
thought I'd ask, because I know we went down another road to create it and to fund it. We did have to go to town meeting. I'm not
Right.
opposed to this, by the way.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that,
Using the right
that
process.
we're getting it done right.
Yeah, from what I remember, so much salary was appropriated at town meeting, and then it turns out we couldn't get a candidate for that salary, and then the town manager came before the Board of Selectmen and asked for a broader range, which was more than what was originally thought the salary would be, and that was how come we paid what we did. So I don't think, we didn't go back to town meeting for that broader range of salary.
How can we get an answer to that question? Who's the,
I read the charter and looked at that initially, but it would be a town council interpretation, so I'd have to, of the charter itself.
Is
So I'd
it-
have to receipt that.
Is this more of a title change versus a new position, assuming
Yeah,
that
it's not-
this
yeah.
person's going to be assuming the role of the HR director?
It's a one-for-one change, so I'm actually, and I'm not looking for an additional appropriation, I'm looking for the same appropriation. That's the reason why I'm not sure it requires additional town meeting action. I'm sensitized to what you said, because I understand that can be done, but it's also, that was contemplated in the charter, that allows the manager the ability to do that, provided that the board concurs.
Yeah, but I think the point that David's making is, really you're taking the HR position and you're expanding that responsibility
Yes.
and calling it different. You're not eliminating the HR,
That's correct.
Responsibility,
I'm actually including
so,
that responsibility in this new
you know,
title.
but I think, can you review the town charter and send us?
I can,
create-
I'll review it with town council tomorrow. mean,
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah, I think
that's
that'd be a
a-
good idea. Again, it just, there's something nagging me about it, about the process, not about what you're trying to do.
If, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Are you finished with?
Yeah, my request to the board is that if there's any objections to the position, please let me know. And if there's not, so that I can, obviously, my concern is that I'd like to be able to fill the position sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of things I'd like to start working on. And if I can do that, I'd like to proceed with a recruiting process sooner rather than later. So, if the board's comfortable with this, I would ask that you condition the vote that, subject to the approval of town council's interpretation of the charter, that you approve the position if that's your will.
Ginny?
Yeah, could you just explain again what the recruiting process would be, and what would be the makeup of your committee that you'd be relying on
I
to
would
select
be-
a candidate?
I would be obviously looking for a candidate that has, I'd like to have in-state experience if possible, but certainly it doesn't have to have in-state experience. It's just that the learning curve is a little longer if you don't have the in-state experience. So I would advertise in the Beacon, the Mass Municipal Beacon on their website. I'd also possibly consider looking at the Boston Globe as a consideration. And then finally, and there may be possibly ICMA, which is the International City Managers Group. That those three are probably the premier advertising agencies that you would list a position like this. I would then look to some of my colleagues from other communities, town managers, town administrators of this level, and ask for their assistance to serve on a panel, along with I would say probably at least one member of the staff, of our staff, to sit on it as well.
Who would be the staff member that you would?
I'm not 100% sure at this point, but I'd be thinking along the terms of the finance director, director of finance too, because he's probably the most senior member of the staff. And we'll be looking most closely with that position, other than myself.
Okay.
David?
Yeah, on the education experience, I would like to see somebody that had risk management experience, because one of their duties is going to be property, casual liability, and workers' comp.
Yep.
And that's a specialized insurance function that most HR people don't get.
Okay. That's a fair point.
I think the description is right on the money in terms of having that second-in-command position. I think this, I personally have no issue with the position, and I think that the process, it's unique, but I like that because it is such a high-level position. To have that level of experience evaluating potential candidates, I think will be really a good approach. So I would support that approach, really.
And just for the board's benefit, I certainly don't want to be indifferent to the concerns that were raised by Mr. Thomas earlier. So to the extent that I'd be willing to also present the same information to the AdCom as well, so that they're aware of what I'm trying to achieve here too.
I looked at the warrant, the budget, and HR is its own line item, so see what Mr. Gelman says.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
In the way you have it drafted here, it's re-engineering the present Human Resources Director to new assistant. So there is, an ability to take that same position and modify it rather than take it out and put something else in there.
Well, I just want clarification that that's what we're doing, and we're not eliminating one job and creating another, because if we are, we have to go down that road.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we'll consider a motion that would be conditional on, supporting this, conditional on the approval of town council.
Council's
and the
authority to do so.
Right, okay. Can I have a motion, please?
Oh, okay. what Lorraine just said. I move that we accept the planned organizational change of the position of Human Resources Director upon the upon discussion with the town council in regard to implementation of the plan.
If I could just ask
that
that you consider the term re-engineer, because that is really what I'm looking to achieve here. And it is, if you note, it's in my actual recommendation here, on my, the document here. It's actually the very bottom.
So the motion is
Okay, so I can just read that?
Yes.
I recommend that the board vote to support Town Manager Keegan's request to re-engineer the present Human Resources Director position to the new Assistant Town Manager position,
A second.
Subject to
subject to
town council's
Town
concurrence
council.
that it's consistent with the authority of the charter.
subject to town council's concurrence that is
Is
consistent with the authority of the charter.
I'll second that.
sorry.
That's okay.
Any further discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor? Okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Bill.
very much.
That was very good. Thank you. All right, so on to action items. Back to action items.
You want to do the handbook?
Town Committee Handbook Request
I'm
Form?
skipping right by it. Sorry about that. Town Committee Handbook and Request Form. We had some discussion about the annual appointments at one of our meetings, and this handbook has not been reviewed or revised since 2009, when I last looked at it, worked on it with Chris Shuri. So we put a copy in here, and was wondering if anyone had any comments they'd like to make on it, any suggestions in terms of changes that they'd like to bring forward. Jim, do you have?
Yeah, I read through it, and, you know, with the exception that, you know, reference state conflict of interest laws rather than trying to respell them out. I put it in the category, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think it works pretty well. You know, to appoint it, we've been appointing many committee members, and this kind of lets the new applicants come to the board. We forward that information, and we leave the onus up to the individual committee members to vet the system, come back to us with recommendations. And unless something is really egregious, it's been going, you know, we'll speak up, but for the most part, I think it's going well. Unless someone has a lot of time to redo it, I would say leave it.
John?
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. I looked at it, and it's dated, but it doesn't really need to be re-engineered, to use the term again. Why was this brought up in the first place? Is it deemed to be flawed?
There was,
What was the issue that made this rise to the
It
surface?
just hasn't been updated in a
Just-
while,
right.
you know, just to make sure that, I just did note that your website address is wrong. That goes to show you, it does go back a few years, so, but.
I mean, most documents that I deal with, it's, you know, someone's responsible for, you know, making, you know, reasonable changes and then re-revving the documents and keeping it fresh. I don't
Well-
think we necessarily have to be the authors of the rev.
Yeah, I think when we were doing the appointments, I had brought up questioning why the reappointments were done automatically. My concern is in this, there is on page 4, there is a mention of if a committee member fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings, that could be declared a vacancy. And I think that's important because, you know, if you're going to be a member of the committee, you should at least attend. And if you're absent for 3 consecutive meetings, that could mess up the process. And if you have people going before you, if you can't get a quorum, then you've got a problem. So I don't think anything should really be changed, but I think we should be more cognizant of people's attendance at at board meetings, committee meetings.
So you look-
They shouldn't be just placeholders, they should be actually
So you're actually
contributing.
looking for stricter adherence to these guidelines?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
But doesn't
So-
that speak to the effectiveness of whatever, whether it's the historic or conservation or recreation, effectiveness of their board to
Mhm.
monitor it and do meeting minutes and?
Right, and I think they should be monitoring.
But that wouldn't be a change of this.
No, I'm not saying to
Oh,
change.
okay.
No, because it's already in there, but I think I'd like to have the committees actually adhere to it.
Are there committees that are not?
From what I understand, there have been committees that have come to my attention through people who have had business before committees that there are people who do not attend meetings. And so they've had to come back again because the quorums were not available. Then they had to come back again, and then they had to make the whole presentation again. What you're doing is you're wasting the time of the applicants to come, and it just delays the process. And I think if you're going to be on a committee, I mean, if you decide to be on a committee, I think what you should be doing is realize that attendance is necessary to be on a committee.
I couldn't agree with you more,
Yeah.
but wouldn't the people on that committee, if they're coming back over and over, wouldn't somebody on that committee say, why am I coming back a second time?
The
You mean
committee
people
chairman
come
should
before the
voice it.
committee? Well, they
Someone on
have.
that committee, I think it would be an issue with that committee.
Well, it should be, and I think all the committees should be cognizant of it. And if they have a committee member who's not attending meetings, well, then you have to question, do you really want to be in this committee? Are you just a placeholder?
But you have a chairperson of that committee that's supposed to be
Exactly right.
controlling the committee, so
Exactly right.
it's the responsibility of the chairperson.
Exactly right. And it's right in the manual that if you fail to attend 3 consecutive meetings, then your participation in the committee should be questioned. You know, I just want to be consistent. You know, I've been on
Yeah,
plenty
I'm
of committees
not-
that I've attended every meeting, and there's, you know, I mean, if you're going to be on a committee, be on a committee.
But I think the question was, is this handbook adequate?
Yeah, it is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't see it anywhere in many other
Mike's.
communities, so to the
Yeah,
extent.
I guess
that should be
if
the
if it's an issue, I haven't heard it at this table, and.
Heather?
No.
Hi, Heather Harding, 14 North High Street. I just wanted, did you have copies of that for the audience? We don't know what you're looking at. No, I don't want to take yours, if you don't.
That's
I mean,
fine.
You can get them somewhere.
I have it online.
You have
Yep.
another one? Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we redid this in 2009, and back then, there was some discussion about, again, attendance at committees, and the way we left it back then as a board was that, you know, if there ever was an issue with a particular committee that has been, you know, information has been coming to the board members, that, you know, we'd discuss it with the chairman, and if necessary, with the board to, you know, suggest that perhaps there should be a replacement, you know, given whatever the circumstances are. So we left that open-ended at the time. So, I mean, I think that process is there. Is that something?
Well, I've seen, you know, folks who have, they found that they don't have the time, they resign, new people
Yeah.
come on. It seems to be working pretty well.
For the natural replacement, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is a great document, because most committees don't even have any guidelines as to what's expected of them when they first start out.
So,
Well, I know I kind of am portraying myself as the Board of Selectmen computer geek, but I think this document would be well-served if it was posted online. You know, be readily accessible to
Sure.
anybody.
yeah.
And if anybody has any questions about, you know, procedure or anything else, they can just, you know, access this document.
Do we have a requirement that the agendas and the minutes of meetings be on the website?
That's a good
I know there's
question.
nothing in here, it just says that the secretary has to provide minutes and an agenda has to be posted, but now we have a website,
Mhm.
and if you're
I know
going to...
I know the state if you're going to be eligible for the website award, for the state, you have to have that as a minimum.
So
Mm.
maybe
It's a
we
requirement.
should put a sentence in here to, you know, require within a certain time frame that committee meeting minutes are posted.
Right.
We don't need to take any action.
We don't
on
need
it.
to take any action. If, do you want one of us to insert that kind of language somewhere, or is it,
Yeah, we can certainly do that, and then.
is that all right with everybody?
Just ask
We'll
that if
do that.
anybody has any further comments, that they convey that to Sandra in the
Okay.
office.
So why doesn't everybody send their comments on it directly to Sandra, and then
Right.
we can bring it back, highlight any changes, and then just revote it?
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Great.
But I think if you look at, the record keeping, the meeting minutes, the posting, this is pretty complete.
Yeah, it's a good
already,
document.
so.
It's actually a very good document.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bill, for the town manager update?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just updated on working on the goals. I did go over the goals with the department heads the last meeting. I've asked for input from them. Stuff has been coming in. I hope to have a document back to you for the next meeting, so we can actually take some action at that point, set the wheels in motion. Just a quick announcement that the Water and Sewer Commission, and congratulations to them for doing this, approved the intermunicipal agreement between the towns of Foxborough, Norton, and Mansfield last time they actually signed the agreement. And I'm told that they were the first to sign that agreement, based on a meeting I had this morning with the other two town managers. So congratulations on that. That's a huge milestone for this community. So that's great news. This morning I met with the Tri-Town Chamber of Commerce to talk about regional economic development opportunities, and it was a really good meeting. There was several of the state representatives were there, along with some of the major economic development, actually members of the community, of the committee rather, were there, and all three town managers were present, and so it was an opportunity to kind of just get to know each other and also talk about regional economic issues, talking specifically about how do we retain good businesses in the region as well as attract new ones, and what is it that we can do collectively to achieve that, identifying things such as good quality of life issues such as good schools and good recreational opportunities and affordable housing, and all the elements that really are a good indication for economic development for a community, for a company to want to locate in this region. There's no question that we are a great location from a perspective of location, transportation network, surrounded by rail as well as air to a limited degree, but also because of our location in between two major cities, Providence and Rhode Island, and not far from Worcester, even for that matter. So it's a great location for major companies to locate here for that reason. Also, we're in striking range of the major colleges and universities to attract a trained workforce. Cambridge, such as MIT, Harvard, and all the major teaching universities. So one of the things that we're looking to do is to perhaps do an analysis of the capacity in the school systems right now, so as to determine whether or not we have the capacity to expand housing opportunities, because right now there's a trend across the country that school-age children are actually on the decline. So actually we're looking to see how much of an impact that has on the school systems on a region-wide basis, and also to see what we can do to diversify our housing stock, because one of the things that's been clear to me is that just based on the study that was recently done in our community, in the community in Dedham, when I was there, was that it was an analysis showing that the over 55 crowd is looking for ways to stay in communities, but yet do not have the same level of maintenance on their properties that they currently have. But at the same time, providing an opportunity for other young families to move into those homes, and so that they can all stay and live in the same community. And we're finding too that the younger generation wants to be close to where they work. They don't want to be driving an hour away to get to where they work. They don't want to be taking the long train rides, etc. They want to be able to get out, roll out of bed, and go to work. That's just the style that we have today. So we need to have housing stock in the region that makes sense to that, and also it's affordable. The kids of today also don't want the big McMansions. They want the smaller homes, less to take care of, more affordable. So that tends to be the way of the world today. So if we're directing our housing development over the longer term, we need to be make sure that we're reflective of that in our zoning and planning needs and long-term strategic steps. So it was a good meeting for that, and I thought that we had a really good discussion, and we're going to do further follow-up on that. Also, I will be attending the Brigham and Women's 5-year anniversary celebration on Monday night at Patriot Place. And certainly any one of the board members can attend that as well. That's a really nice celebration, and congratulations for them on that 5-year anniversary. Also, I worked with the DPW director, Roger Hill, to evaluate the streetlight request for pole number 30 at the intersection of North Street and Putnam Path. And based on our review, we don't think it's even possible to place a light on that pole because of the various connections attached to it. It's too entangled. So one thing that may help is that we are looking at the installation of LEDs on our lights throughout the community, and maybe that type of light may emanate more into that area and provide a more whiter light, which will provide greater coverage. And so we're going to look at that and see as one possible solution. We're also looking at ways that we can actually change our lights over at a much reduced cost, perhaps even acquire the lights so that we own the lights. Something that would be a lot cheaper for us in the long term to maintain. I also want to alert the board that there was an MMA notice that was sent out regarding the efforts by the industry, by the local industry to change the legislation that will allow the setting of wireless antennas and equipment in towns and be on a much easier basis. And that actually passed, made it through the House this past week, and now it's in front of the Senate. And so a letter was sent by the MMA executive director to Senator Timblety to advise him to please vote against that legislation when it moves through to their consideration. This, as I read this, and as I read the highlights that were put forth in the letter by Jeff Beckwith, it's not something that I think that we would want to see happen. It would basically take away a lot of local authority to control the siting of cell towers and that type of antenna within our community. So I would respectfully request that perhaps we send a letter to Senator Timblety to alert him as well, indicating our dissatisfaction with that approach, and perhaps make sure that we are protecting our local authority and local rights of reviewing that. If that's the wish of the board.
Does everyone agree that we should have Bill send that letter?
Mhm.
All right.
Bill, if
Thanks,
this were to
Bill.
pass, does it mean it would just be sort of the Wild West of wireless antennas?
Pretty much. I mean, as I read this, it's a little bit scary. It provides for like a 90-day process of review, which, and if you miss the 90 days, you basically get it granted by automatically gets granted. So it's not a good process. It's very slanted towards the industry. It's something they've been trying to do for years. It's not something new, but it's similar to what the cable company was trying to do on the national level for a number of years, is to try and change the legislation so that we would have very little control at the local level in terms of cable licensing. So this is just announced, it's moved to wireless antennas. I have a meeting set up with Congressman Kennedy on July 2nd, I believe it is. So if there's any issues on the national level or that any of the board members have, please let me know, and I'll make sure I get that to him when I meet with him on that date. And on last but not least, on a very, very positive note, personal note, congratulations to my daughter Amanda for winning an Emmy Award as an associate producer for Good Morning America.
Oh,
Congratulations.
They won they were #1 morning show in America, so she actually gets an Emmy Award. So 26 years old and right out of the box, not too bad. I'll take that. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Move on to the action items.
okay. Okay, I move to accept a donation in the amount of $200 to the K-9 Division of the Foxborough Police Department from the Hockomock Kennel Club for the protection and care of the Foxborough police dogs. And I want to publicly thank the Hockomock Kennel Club for its generous donation.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Right? Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the Foxborough Planning Board referral form in regard to the public hearing scheduled for Thursday, June 26, 2014, at 7:45 PM and I wasn't quite sure where they were meeting. Must be at the library, I assume. For the construction and expansion of Lakeview Pavilion, and if necessary, submit comments 2 days prior to the public hearing.
This is just information only, right?
It's information,
All
yeah.
right. It's great to see Lakeview bringing the plans
Yeah,
forward.
That's right.
What's that? I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Vivian Pitts to the Personal Wage Board for the term expiring May 1, 2016, and thank her for her service to Foxborough.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Gary Whitehouse to the Personal Wage Board for the term expiring May 1st, 2016, and thank him for his service to Foxborough.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm opposing Gary Whitehouse's appointment to the
4-1.
Personnel Wage Board.
It's 4-1.
Madam Chair, just for the members of for the board certification, I do intend to meet with that board after July 1st, because as I recall, you just appointed Paul DeFazio, thank you, to that board, but he can't serve until after July 1st, so they'll actually have a quorum at that point, so I'll be looking to meet with that board after that time.
Great.
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the appointment of John Schlaler to the Permanent Municipal and School Building Committee, and thank Mr. Schlaler for his service. This vacancy was prompted by the resignation of longtime member Walter Parker, and we thank him for his past service to Foxborough.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Strong guy. Strong candidate.
Do you need number 6?
I did, yeah. 40 years of experience.
This is for 2 separate one-day beer and wine licenses. Okay, just for clarification on the first one, it says number 10 should read no for this application. I'm pretty sure, because number 10 says, has a Sunday entertainment license been applied for? And the answer is yes, but this is this is going to be on Saturday. The other application has a Sunday entertainment license. So just to make note that probably number 10 is incorrectly answered.
So we're taking these as separate applications, not
Right.
not a combination.
Right. The first one is for Saturday, July 12th, and on that form it says, has a Sunday entertainment license been applied for? Well, it's going to be on Saturday, not Sunday, so I think that was incorrect. The next application is for a Sunday license, and that is correctly done. So just clarification if you want to change, this, okay? So I move that the Board of Selectmen grant a one-day beer and wine license to Bay Colony Productions for Saturday, July 12, 2014, 7 to 10:30 p.m. for the Tal's Top Orchestra.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. And the next one is, I move that the Board of Selectmen grant a one-day beer and wine license to Bay Colony Productions for Sunday, September 28th, 2014, 6:30 to 10 p.m. for the Bob Goldthwait Comedy Show.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay. The next one is the final one is for the one-day all alcohol permits. These were 2, I guess last week at the meeting,
Yeah.
you approved a number of dates, and Sandra returned for this meeting, just for clarification on the times. Now, the license is asking for 5 PM to 1:30 AM. Usually, it should be 5 PM to 1 AM.
We had voted on it last time to approve it, subject to confirming that the prior licenses had been granted for that same time frame. But in fact, Sandra has confirmed that they only had them open till 1 AM. So, it's up to the board to decide if we want to extend it to 1:30 AM or keep it at 1 AM like we have historically in the past.
Just to note that the regulations do not specifically say 1 AM. They say the date, it's actually
Whatever's on the license.
whatever's on the license.
Right.
So,
Now, this has been going on for how many years?
Yeah, but it's always
Till
been...
1 a.m.
Till 1
To
AM,
1
so I
a.m.,
think
yeah.
1 AM is appropriate.
Yeah, and-
I would
and-
agree with you on
Yeah.
that. I think I would advise you to stick with 1 AM.
Yeah, and also usually when they want to change an accommodation for a time, there's a separate letter that accompanies the application, and that wasn't the case. This is just sometimes if the game is late, these people want to be able to have a drink while they're waiting in their limos, so I think 1 o'clock is...
Okay. So can I have a motion that references 5 PM to 1 AM?
Okay, so I move that we approve the liquor license for First and Goal on October 16th, 2014, from 5 PM to 1 AM.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the second application is, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the First and Goal application for October 5th, 2014, from 5 PM to 1 AM.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Now, I just have a question. We have these licenses in the packet, Bill, but it would say 1:30 AM. Do we have to get all new licenses to come back to sign?
Yeah, it would have to be, there'd have to
Okay.
be a minute to say that, yeah.
Okay, so would they be available at Town Hall so we could just go in and
Yes,
sign them?
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And can we have that letter to Senator Timilty ready at the same time?
Yeah, I'll try and
Do-
get that done for you tomorrow.
Okay,
All right?
All right. So, I think, are we all set?
that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we have things to sign, don't leave.
Yeah, we have to sign. Thank you very much.